In this tutorial, I'm going to describe the process of importing Rhino objects into Revit as DirectShapes, including material assignments. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the Proving Ground tab. And for the purposes of this tutorial, I'm going to use Conveyor's Rhino.Inside integration to pass objects from Rhino into Revit directly. I have already started Rhino.Inside within Revit, so at this point all I need to do is open the Rhino user interface. And here you can see I have a number of different Rhino objects that have been created describing a stair. And these objects also have various materials assigned, including glass and wood. So one of the things that Conveyor is going to do is it's going to identify those object materials and it's going to map them to available materials in Revit. So if I have a cherry wood, for example, describing the stair tread set up in Rhino, it's going to find that matching material in Revit and assign it through Revit's library. But before I import this object, I need to do a little bit of setup in Rhino using the Conveyor plugin. So I'm going to type in Conveyor, and it's going to ask me which units to use, and I'm just going to use the Imperial units, and it's going to activate the Rhino plugin, which is going to allow us to set up the object to be compatible with Revit. So at this point I have a number of individual objects, and one of the ways that makes converting objects like this convenient is that we can use blocks to basically create assemblies of objects and have them converted as a single object inside of Revit. So I'm going to first select all of my objects here, and I'm going to convert these to a block. So I'm going to type in the block command, and I'm going to specify a base point. Where that base point is not too terribly important for this exercise, but I'm going to call this a sample stair object, and I'm going to hit OK. So now we have a block that's representative of this stair, and this block has objects contained within it that have materials. So if I click on my block, you'll see that it is not yet assigned to a category of object. It's important for a Conveyor to know how this object should be translated over into Revit. So first thing we need to do is assign a category. In this case, since we're dealing with a block, our selection is going to involve converting it over as a component family. At this point, we can then choose to convert the object and set a specific type. And there are a number of types available for converting this over into a family. You can see that we have some of the typical categories like casework and furniture and generic models. And as of Conveyor version 3, we have a number of DirectShape specific categories. So we can choose to import this over into Revit as a stair. And which means that the DirectShape, when it comes over into Revit, will be classified as a stair object. So I'm going to go ahead and choose that. And then the next thing I need to do is I need to activate the Rhino Revit Direct toolbar. And what this is going to do is it's going to make a connection from Conveyor into Revit using the Rhino.Inside pathway that's been established here. So we now have a set of tools here that will allow us to send this object over into the Revit environment. So I'm going to go ahead and do a little bit of window rejiggering here, just so we can kind of see what's happening as I make this import happen. So now that I have a view set up here, I'm going to go ahead and choose my object, and then I'm going to choose Send to Revit. So what's happened here is now that the object has been sent over into Revit, you'll see that we have a DirectShape object that's been created in the Revit environment. And this DirectShape object has all of the objects contained within the Rhino block represented as a single object. If I hover over the object, you'll see that it is classified as a stair object for the DirectShape. And if I go into my shaded mode, you'll see that it has been able to map the different materials from the Rhino environment over into Revit. That's because, again, we have matching material names corresponding between the Rhino and Revit environments here. So it's able to kind of find those and produce a DirectShape that has multiple materials represented in this particular import. So hopefully this is a good introduction to this idea of being able to start in Revit, open up the Rhino environment using Rhino.Inside, make a couple of object selections, transform things into a block, and then pass them over to Revit, and we can see that we now have a stair that's been translated across with the materials assigned. So it's a very easy workflow, and hopefully it offers a lot of flexibility in your projects.